is on and on. Control Chaos Podcast. I am your host, DJ Flavors, the mixologist. So, alright, so we're going to keep this short and sweet. Well, we're going to try to keep it short and sweet. But as you guys already know me, I tend to just kind of like speak my mind a little bit. So, welcome back to another episode of the Control the Chaos Podcast. So we're going to kind of just talk a little bit about a few of the things that's going on today in the news. And like I said, I'm going to try to not get too political about the situation. I'm just going to give you guys the basics. So let's start off first with the Democratic primaries that's been going on. Just to kind of reiterate the point, I personally think the Democratic Party is imploding. We don't have a viable candidate because the party is just too busy picking itself apart. And, you know, as much as everyone here, well, not everyone, as much as the Democratic Party and the liberals per se, are busy trying to get Trump out of office, they have not succeeded in actually presenting a candidate that, one, can beat Trump in his own game, or two, is strong enough to actually stand any chance against Trump. And let's just compare apples to oranges. Trump has the support of the Republican Party, good, bad, or indifferent, whether or not they like him or they don't like him. They are standing behind their candidate. And I don't think I've ever seen any other time in from when I've been keeping up with the political process that any party has been so torn from within as badly as with the Democrat Party. The Democratic Party, it's in shambles, and we just literally have to call a spade a spade. They, it's just an embarrassment. And if you've been keeping up with the whole process, it's really just. It's not pretty. If you want to break down some of the candidates, I'm just going to go through a quick run over the candidates. I know Bernie Sanders right now is probably the clear-cut front runner. He has a few points lead over Biden. But if you look at the entire field from Sanders to Buttigieg, I hope I said his name right. Apologies if I didn't. I don't think that any of them really have a leg to stand on. And here's why. This whole debacle started the minute that Trump took office. And I'm not a big supporter of Trump. I think, quite frankly, he has no reason being in leadership. He hasn't put forth one program that I think that's benefited the public. And this is kind of where everything starts falling apart. And I said this before in a couple episodes earlier, if you remembered. The Democratic Party was so insistent on just not even acknowledging this guy as being the president, whether or not he won by legitimate or illegitimate means, whether or not Russia helped him win. The fact of the matter is he was elected. He was duly elected president. And I said it before when I put a post out. Let the guy do his job. Whether he fails or succeeds, it is what it is. And this is where I kind of have to give the Republican Party a lot of credit. When Obama got elected, they hated the guy. And it was a well-known fact. They did not want to work with this guy, whether or not because he was black or whatever. I mean, yeah, if you want to really be honest about it, it was because he was a black guy in office. They didn't want to work with him. They probably would have worked a lot better with Bill Clinton, even though but they didn't like Obama. And what did they do? They didn't go out and protest. They didn't sit there and try to delegitimize his being named president, even though Trump started the whole birther movement thing, and a few of them probably bought into that bullshit. But they basically fought him on his own ground. They just did not work with him. And any programs he tried to put out, they didn't vote on it. They controlled, and they made sure that when it was time for the votes to come down to get control of the House and the Senate, that they just basically massacred the Democrats. And that was pretty much like a whitewashing right there. After he took office and they had the midterm elections, the Democrats got shellacked. And even Obama came out and said, yeah, we got our asses kicked. And he knew that his job from that point on was going to be difficult. It was going to be a lot harder than he initially thought it was going to be. But he didn't go on TV and start bitching about it. He was like, all right, you're not working with me, fine. He made this point saying that, the Republicans weren't working with him, but he still got some things accomplished. He got Obamacare accomplished. And everyone is sitting there complaining about Obamacare. This is my thing. I personally think Obamacare was good in theory. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In theory, it worked. But I don't see, and I don't agree with charging people $700 that can't afford to be on the program in the first place. There's no relevance to that. It doesn't make any sense. So you're going to charge someone that's broke and struggling as it is a fine for being broke and struggling and not being able to afford healthcare. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I don't necessarily agree with universal healthcare. I think it might work, but it has its downsides. But we'll get into that later on down the program. So, getting back to the whole thing with the candidates, Bernie Sanders. He's from Vermont. And he's kind of like a progressive liberal, I guess if you want to put it that way. Like, he has a lot of progressive values, and a lot of people, especially a lot of millennials, seem to, take to his style of politics, and they understand where he's coming from. I personally don't think that Bernie Sanders would be someone that I want to see in office. He could make a good commander in chief, but I just don't think that his programs. I think he doesn't understand the middle class and the minorities and the poor people, and this is why I'm saying that. Every one of these candidates that's trying to get the vote are technically, in a high tax bracket. They make hundreds of thousands a year. Bloomberg, I think Bloomberg would make a better candidate, and I'll kind of just explain why. Bloomberg, to me, has a lot more experience as far as getting things done. Now, when he was mayor of New York, he did literally screw over a lot of the unions. Like, he fucked them over, and I'm calling it for what it is. He really kind of just killed it, as far as, and killed it in a negative sense. He went on there and he screwed the unions over, but he did have some good policies. He did make a lot of progress. I don't agree with the fact that he fought for a third term after 9/11. But he got it. So clearly his leadership was appreciated and valued and needed. And he did kind of lead the city out of a dark time. I think also another good mayor we had was Giuliani, but Giuliani lost his fucking mind. And here's where I think Bloomberg made a huge error. Is when he was trying to go after the black vote, he changed his stance on stop and frisk. That right there, you lost the black vote with that, because the second you start changing your tune to accommodate another group of people, it comes across as sincere. You should have stuck with your guns and said, you know what, hey, it may not have worked for you, but it worked. And here's why I think he should have stood his ground. Stop and frisk, yeah, okay, it may have had its pitfalls. But in all honesty, though, it did reduce crime. It took a lot of guns off the street. It contributed to the rapid decline of crime in New York City. And the people who were bitching and complaining about it were the people who were basically, had shit to hide or didn't want to have their guns taken away. Were there some of the people? I mean, listen, I've been pulled over, when I was with my boss, and we were pulled over. And mind you, we have shields and everything else. We got pulled over. We got searched. Did I take it as offense? No. You know what? You're doing your job. It is what it is. The society that we're in now is so reliant on complaining about everything, and nothing gets accomplished and nothing gets done because we're too busy looking to place blame on everybody else. And that's the problem with the black community. And I'm going to call it for what it is. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this because I've been called coon and everything a million times by black people. It don't faze me no more. Fuck it. Say what you're going to say about me. You know, but I'm going to call it for what it is, and it is what it is what it is at the end of the day. We created a bunch of the problems ourselves, but then we kind of get mad when the powers that be step in to try to rectify it. You know, and a perfect example of this was the situation with Eric Garner. Now, let me say this before you guys jump on your freaking bandwagon and want to come and start looking to hang a motherfucker. It's a shame he died. And I'll say that a death is unnecessary in any form. But, and this is where we come into that gray area. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that's not going to agree with me, and it's my show, so I'm going to say what the fuck I want to say. But now, when the commanding officers of the 120th precinct that control that area had received a lot of complaints about this guy. Hey, you know, not just about Garner in particular. They received complaints about just the crime in that neighborhood in and of itself. So aggressive policing was used. And now I'm going to say this, and I'm just going to put it out there. Yes, there are wayward cops in every precinct. We do have some cops that do abuse their authority, that they think a gun and a badge gives them the power to do anything they want. And I've encountered a few people like that. You know, it's unfortunate, but it does happen. So anyway, getting back to this whole thing with Eric Garner. So they pretty much, you know, they had the complaints and people were complaining about him, and they approached him on the whole thing with the selling of the cigarettes. Now, do I think they need to do that? No, but when you are giving a mandate by a commanding officer that comes directly from the brass at 1PP, you got to do your job. That's the, you know, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You receive a command directive, you address it. They approach them, and this is kind of where social media causes a lot of problems, because his boy picked the phone up, started recording, and what did this dude do? He starts showing out. Listen, man. When a dude with a gun and a badge is sitting there in your face and telling you, listen, man, just knock it off or whatever, you know what I mean? Come on, you're selling cigarettes. You really think you need to sit there and show out? Take the friggin' arrest. You go to the precinct, you get your little disappearance ticket, and you're home in 2 hours, back to the corner to make your million selling Lucy's. But no, he sat there and started this whole friggin' bullshit, and it escalated, and we all know the rest of the story. I'm not gonna go rehash the story. And this is where I think that black people kind of got misled, is because with the Black Lives Movement, that I personally think is a waste of time. They have not accomplished anything, because again, they don't address black lives when it really matters. When black people are killing black people, I don't see none of these people protesting. I don't see no one sitting there holding a rally. I never see Al Sharpton in the hood when kids are killing each other. None of them show up. They only show their face when it benefits them. And then you got, of course, now people turn this whole thing with Eric Garner into a marketing project. You got guys out here selling T-shirts with the hands up and I can't breathe, and you guys are basically following narratives and following trends that you have no idea about. If you don't know the facts, don't just jump and assume. There are 3 sides to every story, regardless of what you see on video. There's their version, the other person's version, and the truth. And both sides know what the exact truth is, but the truth is basically based on perception. It's based on who's looking. And let's be honest about it. But that was my little off the cuff rant about that bullshit. But I'll get back to the candidates. So I apologize for going off subject. I know my program director is gonna smack me around for this. I do have notes. But anyway, I think Bernie Sanders will not make a good candidate. But back to Bloomberg. Bloomberg's problem was he pandered to the black people to get their approval by sitting there saying, well, I recognize it was wrong. No, it wasn't wrong, bro. The program was not wrong. The program worked. The program would have been wrong if we had if we had a situation like Abner Louimer happen again, you know, or Amadou Diallo happen again. And if, for those of you that don't know the situation, Abner Louimer got sexually assaulted in a precinct in Brooklyn by by I think one officer's name was Charles Schwartz. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I didn't exactly do my complete research, but I know it happened. And Amadou Diallo was an African immigrant that was in his building and was approached by the members of this, I think now defunct street crime unit, and they had their guns drawn. He had his wallet in his hand, and for some reason they mistook his wallet, and they fired upon that guy, I think 41 times. They shot that guy to shit over a wallet. I think that was extremely excessive. There is no, I think it was extremely excessive. 41 shots for a dude holding a fucking wallet. You all got guns. You're trying to tell me when you got, the procedure should be once your weapons are drawn, you secure the scene, and then if you need to, if the guy didn't pose a threat, you get him down on the ground, you cuff him, and then you take a look at the situation and see if it warrants an arrest. That clearly didn't happen. But anyway, I am not denying that members of the minority community, the black and brown community, have been unfairly targeted in certain instances. But let's be honest, a lot of the fucking crime happens in black and brown communities. You just don't want to admit it, or you want to sit there and turn a blind eye for whatever friggin' reason. And my cousin just said something. People looking to the governor to solve their problems is a problem. Yeah, government can't solve your problems if you can't fix your problems yourself. And Tara Little said, "Ouch." Hey, if the ouch was about me saying that black people cause most of the problems in the community, yeah, it is. Listen, I'm a realist. I grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn. I've seen enough shit, and it's not to say that there's not problems in the white community. I think the media hugely escalate situations because they focus on it a lot more. And here's why I say that. Because crime happens everywhere, but it is more marketable when it happens in the black community. And this is unfortunately the truth. Cops shoot white people as well, but it is not televised unless a minority is involved. You will but you will rarely see them talk about a shooting victim. If it's a white person, the cops won't even mention the race. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, well, officers stopped a gentleman and escalated and shots were fired," and they leave out his race. But the second it involves a minority, the first thing they say is, "Oh, cops shoot black suspect," or "Cops shoot Hispanic teen," because that's what sells. Sensationalism sells, and unfortunately, that's where we are as a society. We do things based on reactionary politics, because all people are going to see is cops shoot black people, cop shot a black guy, or cop shot a Hispanic dude, and everyone jumps into action and wants to start protesting. And here comes Al Sharpton, and here comes Jesse Jackson, and everybody else, and it takes on a life of its own, and then no one looks at the facts. And this is where I think the division starts in, is because people are so busy just focusing on what the media is showing that they refuse to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. I look at the bigger picture. I'm not quick to jump on anything because I know from working with law enforcement and doing the job I've been doing as a retail investigator, you have to look at everything. You can't just take one little snippet and say, well, okay, this is definitely what the facts are. And it's, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, and I really need to get back on the political thing with the Democratic Party, but I think this is kind of relevant because it does kind of show why the Democratic Party target the minority vote, because they think the best way to do that is to they say the things that the minorities want to hear. They preach to our fears and our insecurities about the establishment for what it is. At the end of the day, both parties have the same ideology. They both want to do, in their mind, what's best for the country / their party, but they will use any means necessary to convince you that the other person is wrong, that the other person doesn't have your best interest at heart. Clear-cut example, Elizabeth Warren. This chick has been trying to be every other race but white for the last year. Like, first she was Native American, now she's like, pandering for the black vote. Next she's going to sit there and try to be a Latin queen. It ain't far-fetched. Let's be honest. Elizabeth Warren will probably be the worst choice for this party because she's all over the fucking place. And quite frankly, I don't trust her political views. I think that she doesn't have a solid platform to stand on. Her views as to how we can get this country rolling forward are all based on doing everything exactly the opposite Trump does, which ain't really going to solve no fucking problems. Don't get me wrong, Trump is not exactly leading this country down the right path. You know, you're cutting off our allies. You're sitting there and you go after people on Twitter, and you pretty much use the presidential podium as a bully pulpit. But unfortunately, his party is catering to his needs, and they've caved in. And anyone that goes against him kind of gets, they kind of just get shot down, and they're so afraid of his base that they cower and they hide and like, oh, we gotta be careful. You want to piss off Trump? Get the fuck out of here! Come on now. Another reason why I think the Democratic Party is gonna lose this year's election, and it's not even having to do anything with actually part of the thing with the candidates, but aside from that, is that we're too busy trying to play this you go low, you go high, we go low, or you go low, we go high routine. It ain't necessarily gonna freaking work. And they're so fixated on finding another Obama. Obama was an anomaly. Then let's just call it what it is. He was an anomaly. He was the first black candidate, and he wasn't exactly 100% black. He was mixed, but he was, as far as the Republicans and the white establishment was confirmed, that was black enough for them. He was a black candidate that that said the right things, that had good ideas. But the black people placed all their hopes and dreams on this guy because automatically became, oh, we got a black guy in office. He's going to make our lives that much easier. And when he didn't, it was like, oh, what the fuck? People seem to think that Obama was going to be the savior for all things minority related. And he wasn't. Obama was and is a politician. He will say and do the things that need to be said and done. He had some good policies. He did a phenomenal job in getting this country out of a recession and getting us on the right path. And for some fucking weird reason, we all know why, Trump and the Republicans all sit there and want to sit there and go, it's him. It's Trump is the reason why we're doing so good. And let's get it clear. Trump inherited an economy on an upswing. It was already on an upswing. It was on a positive trend when Obama left. But Trump hating everything that this black guy did is clear-cut intent on friggin' taking credit for everything this guy did. If he could erase Obama's name from the fucking history books from ever being a president, he would have done it if it was possible. But the Democratic Party is too busy imploding, and they're constantly butting heads. And I mean, if you watched the last debate, it was a fucking embarrassment to see these people just basically tearing each other apart for nothing. Like, let's be real. What exactly was accomplished? Nothing, because we still don't know who we're fucking choosing. But especially now that it's going to be March in a couple of days. The election's in October. By now, you should have sat there and said, okay, this is who we're gonna friggin' rally behind. This is who we want to friggin' go up and represent us. This is the person we're gonna sit and put all our powers behind. And what's really gonna come back to bite you fucking Democrats in the ass is the bullshit you guys pulled back in 2016 when Bernie Sanders was clearly the guy that was supposed to be the face of the party, and because you wanted to make history and have Hillary as the first female president after the first black president, it shot you guys in the foot, and you've never been able to friggin' live that shit down. That was the fucking problem. And another thing that really was a huge embarrassment was Hillary being a sour fucking loser. Like, okay, you lost the election. No one was happy that you lost. But come out and address your supporters. Don't send your fucking your press secretary or who the fuck that dude to come out and send people home. You had people standing out there for hours, and people who gave everything to see that you got to that point, that you were a party's main candidate and you made it on the ticket to be president. And you lost. And what'd you do? You didn't even have the decency to come out and say, okay, you know what? We fought the good fight, but the people that have spoken, let's put our support behind the president and move on. No, you created this whole divisive friggin' environment, and then everyone became it started the crybaby establishment. It's basically like Occupy Democrats on crack. You guys started crying for every fucking thing. You couldn't just go out and go to work the next day and fucking let the country run itself. No, you had to fucking go protest. You had to start all this fucking bunch of bullshit. The Democratic Party just basically went to shit after friggin' Trump became president, and you can't live it down. And that's the one reason why you're going to lose in 2016. Unless you guys can actually stop being a bunch of fucking crybabies and stop freaking all this infighting and get the party to rally behind one candidate and get people to actually stop complaining and focus on getting us moving forward, then we will never freaking go anywhere. We're going to have 4 more years of fucking corruption, bullshit, and just sensationalism, and us wondering, oh my God, did friggin' Vladimir Putin help Trump get elected again? More than likely, he probably did. You know, and now, take away from that, now we have the whole thing with the market collapsing. Now, if you've been following the stock market, you know, it's going down. I think the S&P yesterday was down 43 points. The Nasdaq was down 313, and in general, I think the market itself is taking like a 1,200 point nosedive, which is probably one of the highest it's seen since prior to Obama coming in. So we're going to face an uphill trend. So if you're not really a financial guru, I'm going to put a few tips out there for you guys. I'm not one either, but I do a lot of reading. So with the market starting to take a nosedive, the only people who really have to worry will be people who are like within 1 to 2 years of retirement, or families that have invested all their money into the market that are going to use that money to pay for their children's college education. If I were you guys, I would start taking a really close look at the market now and deciding on when it's best to sell. The basic rule of being in the stock market is you buy low and you sell high. So if you have some stock that's really trending high, if you have stock in Disney, if you have stock in Home Depot, stocks in companies that are really, you know, that haven't really been taking a hit, and you figure, okay, you want to cut your losses, now's the time to sell. The people that don't really have much to really worry about, but would want to kind of keep a look at them, is people like myself, or people who are probably still in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that still have a couple more decades before we could look at retirement. I wouldn't panic yet. I would probably take a few. I'll probably take a few minutes I'll probably take a few hours and sit, get with a financial planner or a financial advisor and go over the market and see what your options are. It's always good to have an exit strategy in every situation that you're in. But if you've noticed, the stock market tends to always go into panic mode when things happen. When the Ebola virus started jumping off, the stock market basically shot up and then started tanking and then leveled off. Investors are basically, the stock market is based on it's like a hyperactive child. It has its highs and its lows, and eventually it kind of just levels off, and it takes its own thing at that point in time. I'm sorry about that. You know how it is. But sorry about that. I had a call come in because people decide to fucking call at the worst times, even though they know I'm doing a show. Yeah, the stock market is just what it is. It's a game of chance. It's like Monopoly. You roll the dice. You hope you land on some good property, and you balance it out with that. Some of the risk factors of being in the stock market pretty much will have a lot to do with how solvent you are, and by that I mean your liquid assets, and it's not meaning like how much money you have in the bank, how much you have saved, and whatnot. But just, with the coronavirus being what it is, it's and the contradicting messages we're getting from the commander-in-chief and the CDC. And let me just add that, and I'm not taking jabs at anyone for this, whether or not you're a Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal, you have to look at the facts for what they are. Trump got rid of the pandemic research team that we had in place because Obama put it there. And he got rid of them. So now, he has, and this is really where the comedy part comes into it. He has our Vice President, Mike Pence, in charge of looking into this whole coronavirus. Mike Pence, the same individual who wanted to pray away the gay and pray away diseases. And I don't know. I think this whole thing is just one huge debacle. But it is what it is, unfortunately, that's just the society we're in right now, and things won't change unless we make a change. But I think honestly that our culture and our society has become so inept You know, I think that we really, I think we're really kind of missing the ball on that. But it is what it is. So let me see what people's here are saying. It says the crop of Democrat candidates is just as bad as 2016. Complete clown. Yeah, I agree, Maurice. It is a complete clown show. And hey, Amanda. And Tara says coronavirus. Yeah, you know it. Unfortunately, that's just the situation we're in. But on to another topic. So I was recently a guest on another podcast from the UK, and we were talking about a few different topics. And I think one of the things that we touched upon was just the way the society deals with, aside from the health crisis, is just people taking the flu virus. Then it got into the thing about eating healthy and vegans over people who are just regular, I guess meat eaters, carnivores, which I am. So the question that was posed to me was, do I think that the people that are vegans will live longer than people who just eat regular meat? And I, quite frankly, said no. I don't think so. And here's why. If you're a vegan or you're into that vegan lifestyle, hey, congratulations. I personally don't see the benefits of it. I've never gone to a grocery store and seen a barbecue kit for plants. And it's kind of retarded. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I wasn't really going to do a whole long show and everything else. And oh, by the way, hello to all my Spotify people. It just popped up. So yeah, we're on a bunch of platforms now. So if you want to follow this show on Spotify, it's going to be on iHeartRadio in a couple of weeks. We're on Tuned In. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on, if you go on my page, anchor.fm / Control Chaos. You can check me out there. There's also the Instagram page at Control Chaos Cast, and of course my normal Instagram pages if you know about it already. So, like I said, let me know what you guys think about this whole situation with the stock market and the whole coronavirus thing. I think, quite frankly, that it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And I know Trump is out here saying that, we're prepared for it and whatnot. But from his own people are contradicting him, which for the last 4 fucking years has been the daily